Welcome to the Tea Mind. I'm Erica, and this is your weekly pause to put the kettle on, slow down, and reconnect with what really matters. So, welcome to the Tea Mind podcast. And today I am delighted to be joined by Beth Raymond, co founder and managing director of Pearl Hotels, one of Scotland's boutique hotel success stories. And Beth's journey, as you will hear, is a fascinating intersection of finance, entrepreneurship, hospitality, and community. She trained as a chartered accountant, built a global career, she's lived all over the world, and then co founded Pearl with a vision to modernise Scottish hospitality, and she has done just that. And under her leadership, the group is entering its next phase as she expands, innovates, and deepens its connection to place and to people. So grab your tea, and weirdly, I have randomly just chosen jasmine pearls this morning, which are these lovely tiny little pearls, which I didn't make the connection until I've just sat down to have my tea. So grab your tea as we dig into how Beth bridges the worlds of business discipline, soulful hospitality, and the mindset shift she leans on in scaling and what it really takes to lead from purpose in this demanding hospitality industry. So, Beth, welcome to the show. How are you this morning?
I'm fine. Thank you for having me. It's lovely to be here.
And may I ask what are you drinking this morning?
Unsurprisingly, my morning drink is jasmine pearls as well.
Which I had no idea about, and I've not drunk jasmine pearls for ages, so it's a serendipity
Yes.
meant to be. And I absolutely love your teacup for people that can't see it. Yeah. Do you want to tell me more about that? Because I believe that's your special teacup.
Yeah, this is a teacup that I used to work in Russia, and I would travel back and forth from Moscow to St. Petersburg. And I had a driver in St. Petersburg who used to take me to the Lomonosov factory to get china every time I was there. I would get a couple of plates or a couple of cups, and Um, I chose the Catherine the Great pattern, which is cobalt blue and 22 karat gold. It's very thin china, so it makes a really nice cup for a cup of tea. And I have a little matching pot with it. And I always in the mornings have my tea with this pot. This is kind of like a morning thing I do. And I fell in love with this. I used it all the time, and I always said to everybody, "This is my cup." It sat on the counter. And one day I broke the cup, and I don't know if you can see inside the cup, but I've since my sister-in-law's had it kintsugi'd for me. So now I say, "This is the cup. You all know my cup. You know it because it's been broken and repaired. And a bit like all of us, it's flawed. And like me, I'm flawed, like we all are. And I like to be reminded of that every day."
I love that. That is just beautiful. And yeah, I got into kintsugi during lockdown as well. We used to run sort of kintsugi classes for
Oh,
people that had
lovely.
broken their teacups as well. So for those of people that are listening that don't know, it's where you mend it with fine gold powder and it makes it even more beautiful,
It
I
is.
think.
Sometimes I look inside the cup, and particularly today when I have an almost clear tea, you can see the line. It's so beautifully imperfect, but it follows the crack, and it tells us, that life is a journey, isn't it? We have good days and bad days, and but we can put ourselves back together. And a cup of tea often helps.
Exactly. Tea is the answer to everything, in my opinion. So with that seamless link then, um, I would really love to sort of take you back to the start of your journey and tell me where does it all begin?
Well, I moved to the UK in 1992. I worked on a couple of different things while I was trying to find a career, and I went into chartered accountancy. I joined Deloitte in London. At the time, they were Touche Ross, and trained as a chartered accountant. I had 3 years in London of training, and then I had a year or so as a manager in London, and I was asked where would I like to second. And I had chosen Deloitte because I'd always wanted to work in Russia. I did a Russian and East European Studies degree, and I always wanted to use my Russian. So I said, I was asked, do you want to go on a secondment to the Bank of England? Would you like to try, an investment bank, or what would you like to do? And I said, I really want to go to Russia because I must have some kind of uh, instinct for trouble because it was a very interesting time to be in Russia. So I went in November of 1997, and I was there for the GKO crisis, which was um, the government default. They defaulted on their bonds. So overnight, all of my clients went bankrupt. But it was very interesting time to be there. I returned back to the UK in 2000 to Edinburgh, again through Deloitte. And I was working up here and I met my husband, Fazzy, and we worked together at Deloitte. So we met, we got married here in Edinburgh, and then we had decided we would try lots of different things. And his work took us kind of around the world. He was in private equity. So we moved to Switzerland, we moved to Singapore, we moved to Dubai. And then when our children were getting ready to finish school, we decided to move back to the UK in 2017. But my journey in between took a little bit different route because, of course, I left Deloitte in 2004 and joined Standard Life as head of internal audit for the bank and investments side of the business. And then I ended up working on the IPO as head of investor relations. After that, I left Standard Life when we left the UK. And for a while, I didn't work. I spent, put a lot of focus on my children. They were in a new country, a new language. They learned German while they were there. And and I wanted to spend those early years with them, really spend time with them. And I think that was a very special thing to do. I was very fortunate to be able to do it. Um, yeah, and then when we moved to Singapore, I started to work again on different things. I was president of a school, and then I was president of a school in Dubai as well. And then I was a finance director of a startup as well in Dubai. So done lots of different things. Crazy journey.
Wow. What a life so far. I'm interested to know more about, yeah, so many things, but I'd like to start with Russia and your time there. So were you there for 3 years?
Almost 3 years, yeah. Yeah. And
And yeah.
I moved there to work on banks. I was from the financial services department in London, and we had a lot of banking clients in Moscow, so I went over to work on banks.
And with everything that happened during that time, what's the key lessons do you think you've learned or seen from that time?
I think you just have to be flexible. I had all of my clients go bankrupt overnight, so um, I shifted into non-banking clients. I picked up all the clients that were German speaking because I also speak German. So I think I learned you have to take life each day at a time. We didn't know what the country was going to do over the next couple of years because often financial crises turn into political crises. We didn't know what it would turn into. Um, and I have a funny little story, not to trust entirely what you see in the press. I know there's a lot of talk of fake news, but this was a very personal, very funny story. So I was standing in one of the partners' offices and he had CNN playing on a TV in his office. And CNN were announcing that there was a run on banks and they showed a queue at a bank. And I said, "Oh, that's the bank that's just outside over there. You can see it from your window." And when we looked outside, there were about 8 people standing in front of the bank. But the way that it had been filmed, it looked like it was a huge queue and there was panic. And, so, we had a chuckle about it that it was, yes, it was a crisis. It was a difficult time for the country. It was a really difficult time. Many of our clients were either bought out or dissolved. Um, but also, learning that sometimes it's not as bad as it looks. I think that was really important to me from that.
And how do you think that's helped you with everything that's come since with? the economic crisis here in 2008 and the
Yeah, I think,
pandemic and
and the
everything else.
pandemic, and also just some of the difficulties in hospitality. I think you have to remember that you can only do the best that you can do. You can only put your effort in and put your best effort in, and what comes out will be what it was meant to be. I strongly believe in that. And intention is very important.
Yeah, no, I get that. And where does that sort of that belief in things will happen as they're meant to happen, where does that come from, do you think?
Well, I have a very strong belief in God. I have a very strong belief that we are here for a purpose, that we find our own way in life, but that there are things that are meant to happen in our lives and things happen for a reason. I do strongly believe that.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And then so you've obviously done some wonderful things all over the world in Singapore and Dubai. How did you get started with Pearl?
So, when we moved to Dubai, my husband had purchased three hotels out of administration on the Isle of Skye. And the first I heard of it was he'd already purchased them. But the idea was he was going to have someone else run them. And after a while, that was difficult, didn't seem to be kind of going in the direction that we thought would make it successful. So we um, thought we could do it between us. You know, like many people who start a business, there's this, oh, it can't be that hard, right? And so we took over building the business again and getting ready to renovate the hotels because they really desperately needed renovation. And setting up Pearl Hotels, getting other people in to manage the business, that was very important to kind of focus on what the hotels really should be. What were we actually trying to create? And in that process, the brand of Pearl was born, and then things flowed from there. Then deciding how to renovate the hotels, deciding how they should be run, what the service levels should be, all came with time.
And can you tell me more about, first of all, the name itself and how that feeds into the whole culture and vision and ethos of the brand?
So Pearl Hotels, the name Perle, was chosen because it's the German French spelling of the word pearl, Pearl. But Pearl Hotels, the idea here is we had three very different hotels, and trying to link them with a single brand. It wasn't like a Hilton or, Voco, where they're purpose built and they have a particular design, a particular style, a particular look and feel to them that's very similar from hotel to hotel. So if you go in a Premier Inn somewhere, you can be in a Premier Inn anywhere and they will feel very much like a Premier Inn. So we had very old buildings that were very different, from different time periods, and the idea was how could you give them some kind of consistency or feeling that they were a Pearl hotel. And the idea was born that pearls are very different. Each pearl is individual, but yet when you pick pearls of a similar quality and you put them together, you can make a pearl necklace. So this idea of, pearls being joined together into something whole. That was what was born of the Pearl brand.
I love that. It's such a strong vision. And I wonder what goes into sort of how do you preserve the individuality of each of the hotels and sort of,
I think that comes when you really care about the buildings, because each of our buildings are quite old buildings. And if you look at the building and with some authenticity say what should this building be? Should it be should it be a bit cool or should it be a bit elegant or a bit more elegant or should it be rustic or should it be a five-star, you know, private service venue? Each one has something about it that tells you its story. For instance, Bosville was three smaller properties that were turned into a hotel that was more like a coaching inn, you know? So that really spoke to the rustic nature of Skye and getting something which really represented, that earthiness of Skye, the rusted tractor in the field. Some of the images were, you know, wood, faded wood, that sort of thing, and trying to bring that mood, that feeling, that comfort level into the hotel was really important. But then each one gets its own story.
Yes, I love that. And now, obviously, last year you became managing director for the whole group. So yeah, tell me more about that and what it's been like so far.
Um, so I was brand director before, and I was very involved in the development of the group because as time went by, I took on different roles as, as you grow, you suddenly need an HR function. So I did a bit of HR because I'd done that before when I worked for Deloitte in Russia. Um, so I picked up little bits and pieces, marketing. I did marketing until we could hire a marketing person. I worked on um, you know, the revenue management side until we hired a revenue management director. So over time, I knew each part of the business extremely well. And I think that helped me move up into the managing director role much more easily than somebody who'd say just focused on the brand or just focused on the marketing. And also my chartered accountancy really helps. I have a good, strong financial background, so the numbers um, they don't overwhelm me, I look at the numbers and I can see the direction the business is going and where we need to focus, or where we may not make budget this year, but can we do something to focus on that, getting that part of the business fixed or, improved.
Yeah, I think I just from your whole journey so far, you've got such a diverse and complementary range of skills, which I think is quite unusual for a leader. I think it's amazing that you can pull on so many different things, particularly your finance background as well.
Mm.
And it was surprising to read that you are only the second female managing director of a hotel group in Scotland, which
I
is,
was surprised by that fact.
yeah,
There are a lot of women in hospitality. It's a really good industry for women. It's a flexible industry. Had I gone into, well, I was in hospitality as a student, I waitressed through my college years. But had I known about hotel management being so flexible, I think I would have gone for it even earlier. If you are, you know, raising children, you can still manage to work part-time in hospitality and still keep busy. But, maybe I wouldn't have been in the same position I was in earlier, but definitely I think that it's an interesting industry for women.
yeah, I think that will surprise a lot of people to hear that it is so flexible because a lot of people's perception they see sort of you have to work late nights and long hours and they don't see that flexibility side of it. So
Well, the late nights happen. There are, well, let's talk about a hotel because if you're doing shifts, yes, there will be late nights and there will be early mornings, breakfast. People are in for 6:30, getting breakfast ready. They're closing down restaurants at 11, 12 at night. There are, there are late nights and early starts. But for some people, those shifts work around other commitments they have in life. For management, I always say that management should have a structure that they should be able to take their holidays, take their breaks, work their life, or work life and balance. The work life balance should be there. If they're not, then we don't have the structure right. And I think that's a real lesson I've learned in the last year to get that structure right so people continue to have that balance.
And would you say that that is common across the industry, or is that something you've specifically taken care to implement yourself?
Well, um, we haven't fully implemented it. We're still working on it because there are still areas. There's always, when somebody leaves in a business, it makes a pressure on other people, or if you don't have the structure right, and you're constantly reviewing your structure of your business. I'm sure you do this too. You're
Yeah.
constantly reviewing, do we need to, if we're growing, do we need to add another person in to be able to cope with this, or do we need to maybe find a consultant who can do, that part of it better than we could in-house? So I think it's just all part of the journey of running a business. You're constantly reassessing what you've got, your cost base, whether the business can cope with adding additional cost in, but then would that generate some, alleviate some pressure in a part of the business where you might generate more revenue somewhere else. I think that's really important to keep looking at that
Yeah.
constantly.
And what barriers do you think still exist for to women trying to get to the into more leadership roles within hospitality, and what could be done about it?
Um, I think there's a perception perhaps, or maybe it's just a time of, you know, women going through the training to become management. Maybe in the past, the perception was that managers were men. I don't know. But I think that's changing very fast. Certainly at Pearl, we've always had a very high percentage of women in management. Um, you know, we had a female operations director. We have a female HR director. We have a female commercial director. You know, I think that's changing very fast, and I don't really see there's many barriers anymore. Um, I think it really depends on what people are looking for out of their career. There's a
Yeah.
different commitment to being in management, to being, you know, um, on shift. It's very different.
Hmm. Great. And I think, yeah, the more people can see people like you blazing a trail, then they can, you have to see
It's
what you
all
can
possible.
be. Yeah, see that it's possible. Yeah, and aim high.
Definitely aim high. And I think it's not necessarily aiming high, it's not restricting your belief in yourself.
Mm.
Not restricting, I never I'm a bad example because I never set myself goals like in 5 years I want to be here. And I have shorter term goals, and I think life is much more changeable than that. I think, if we know what we're going to be doing in 18 months, that's incredible. I don't think many people know what the future will bring. So, but I think it's being open to possibility. I think that's been sort of my theme of my whole career is just being open to possibility, being open to what could be as opposed to where I think I should be. Do you understand what I mean by that? It's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
it's not driving it, it's being open to it, being open to possibility.
Yes. Yeah, and I think, yeah, it comes from having you seem like a really open, positive person that's willing to attract things rather than,
I think you
yeah,
do. I think
yeah,
that we've talked about this before about the energy you give off is very important. The energy in life, in business. I that maybe it's there is a law of attraction that you bring what you deserve, or you bring what should come to you if you have that openness. And I think that's really
yeah.
important to try out. Try it. Try it and see.
I'm curious to know whether you've had that your whole life, or have there been specific things that you've learned or challenges that you've had to overcome along the way to get to that point?
I think I've always been a very open person. I think from a very young age, a really big turning point in my life was I won a scholarship to study in Germany for a year when I was in high school as an exchange student, and that experience, the reason why I got that possibility was because I was an open-minded person. They were looking particularly for people who were um, going to go into being an exchange student with an open mind, with being able to be a bit emotionally and mentally flexible. And I think that's something that's part of the core of who I am. And I think that stood me in good stead through my life.
Yeah, so being open-minded and flexible. And I
Yeah.
guess with all the ups and downs of life,
Mm.
particularly at the moment,
Yeah.
yeah, I guess that feeds into as well with the everything that we're sort of fed in the news, and there's a lot of fear culture around at the moment as well.
Mhm.
How
It
much of
is.
that do you sort of take on, or how do you keep your positivity?
Um, ooh, how do I keep my positivity? I think I take time to I journal. I journal almost every day. I know it's a dying art.
Hmm.
I think it gives you a chance to clear your mind, um, to write down your worries and to offload them. You have to put them out of your mind some way. If you write them down, they're there. They're always there. You can go back and look at them, but they don't have to weigh you down. It's almost, getting rid of it, the weight of it, without getting rid of the need to deal with it. And I think it does help you look at the challenges of life and say, okay, this is what I'm worried about, but what are the possibilities of dealing with it? And it takes practice. I just told someone recently, bought them a journal and said, try to journal every day, just 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. For a long time I did the Julia Cameron's writing pages, and it was 45 minutes of morning pages. And that was, to begin with, it was so difficult to write for 45 minutes. Um, and it's a discipline like anything else. You build up the ability to do it. But once you've done it for a while, your mind automatically jumps to, okay, I need to write down what's worrying me, and then I can think about, you know, maybe some good things, or maybe I'm just let my mind wander, or maybe I want to focus on what are potential solutions. And that that is a discipline that I think really helps in life.
Yeah, and certainly for us at Etiquette and the Tea Mind, journaling is one of our most popular tea routines. And I think there's something
Wonderful.
about physically seeing everything set out on the page. You can then
Yes.
choose what is just rubbish that you can just absolutely let go of or burn that page, or what there is something that needs some action, and then you can clearly write down what's your next action step. It's just much easier than holding it all in your head all the
Yeah.
time.
And I think turn the book upside down, turn it sideways, write a spider diagram. Sometimes I write in a spiral to the center, and then when I get to the center, I'm done. And it doesn't matter. And if it's something emotional or if it's something I'm excited about, maybe I'll just write words and make like not a word cloud because that's very different, but kind of make the words into big bubbles and draw a little bit around it or doodle a little bit, but make it a little bit joyful, or sometimes just write on a diagonal so it's different. I don't have to follow the lines. I don't have to, I always try to find a journal that has one blank page and one lined page, just to give myself the ability to, maybe I'd want to doodle, or maybe I want to sketch a place, sitting in the Dolomites at Lago de Braias and sketching my husband and sons in a rowboat on the lake and the mountains around was so joyous for me. They said, "Oh, come in the boat, come in the boat." I said, "No, no, it's okay. You go in the boat. I'm just gonna sit here on the rock." And I ended up sketching them, and it was better than taking a photograph.
Yeah, that sounds very special. I'm going
Mm.
to start turning my notebooks different ways round. But yeah, I cannot stand a lined notebook. I have to have
Okay.
either
I
blank
do
or
read lines sometimes.
oh, I can't do with lines, but I love dotted notebooks.
And
Um,
I stick things in. So, if I see something I really like, an image or an article, I'll glue it in. Mine actually I have mine here, and I don't know if I can show you. I've got lots of things stuck into it at the moment, but it's pages where I just stick an article that I thought was quite good, and you know, different maybe recipes, or maybe it's I'm listening to a podcast and I want to write down some points from it. I put everything in my notebooks. They're they're kind of like the journey of me, right? So yes,
Incredible.
they're good
And
fun.
I hope one day you might turn that into a some sort of memoir or a book that
Oh
can
dear.
inspire lots of
I'm
other
not sure
people.
anyone would want to read my journey.
I'm sure they would. We've hardly scratched the surface so far, and there's so many amazing things. I just want to dig a bit deeper into other things that you do to look after your own well-being, because I can't imagine how busy you are with
Mm.
everything that you have to do. So how do you remain so calm and take care of yourself?
Ooh, not always calm. And that's, I think that's part of life. You're not always calm. You're not always in control. And you shouldn't try to be, because I think then you're not letting yourself be authentic. Um, but I think um, I do try to take time when I can to step out of everyday life, whether that's going off and having a cup of tea or having a cup of coffee and sitting by myself and journaling, or mornings. I like to do my Pilates in the morning. Um, I do reformer Pilates, and I think that really kind of helps me keep my body strong. I think if you don't have a strong mind, a strong body, you can't have a strong mind. I tr truly believe in that. So getting out into nature, I think, is really important. Um, I went for a long walk yesterday with someone, just talking about business, and we walked through actually Glasgow Botanic Gardens, and it it was actually really refreshing to have a discussion about business, but in a really natural setting. Um, because you think about sitting at a desk and you think about in a meeting room, and it must be formal and it must be, but this was very interesting. It was very freeing to talk about things in that setting.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, there's something very special about being outside, I think, with all the elements and nature, and I
We
think it
had it
makes
all. We
you
had a little bit of sun, a little bit of rain.
it makes you much more aware, and also, I guess, maybe a little bit more open to different ideas and
Yeah, and there's
creativity and yeah.
there's something about the color green as well. Green is, I think, has a it has an influence on you. And I don't really remember. I really love the influence of colors, and
Mm.
I look at things like the color blues. Um, it promotes intellect, and the color red is warmth um, and fire, and different colors. But green is very much a refreshing color. It refreshes you. Um, so I think it's nice when you get out and you walk and you have that, you know, oxygenation perhaps more than you would do. I think it's really a necessary part of life.
Yeah,
Mm.
and when in our T mind system we sort of tie it into the Chinese five elements and the season of spring, which is the wood element, which
Mhm.
relates to green tea and to the color green, and it's that symbol of renewal and rebirth, and it's all about action, moving forward.
Oh,
So
interesting.
yeah, so it does all tie in.
That's
It's
perfect.
fascinating. And I'm curious because you seem to be bringing wellness into that seems to be quite an important factor in the hotels. Can you tell me more about that and how important that is?
Yeah, I think we focus on the leisure market, so it's different than having a business hotel or a city center hotel. And I think people go to remote locations to try to um, you know, get away from life, have a little bit of time for themselves. Um, I think it's one of those things that when you step out of daily life, you think about your physical well-being. And I think offering a little bit of well-being in the hotels, it gives people that opportunity to do that, to shut off a little bit more. So we've started installing saunas in all of our hotels. We have a spa in the Oban Hotel, but we have saunas in all the others, and Glencoe should shortly have saunas as well. It's one of the things that I think, um, when you're in a sauna, your body is dealing with an extreme heat, right? You're almost putting yourself into a pressure situation, but without the pressure, right? Without the mental pressure. But your body copes with the sauna and you come out refreshed, right? And once you come out into the cool, that first breath when you come out of the sauna is so renewing, isn't it? It's bringing that life force back into yourself. I think it's a really important, and we're looking at different ways of increasing the amount of wellness experiences that we can get in the hotels. It's very difficult in all hotels, but trying to provide more of that.
Yeah, there's so much science about the power of sauna, and I
Mm,
recently had Kirsty Carver from Soul Water Sauna in Edinburgh on the podcast, and
nice.
yeah, it's just fascinating to learn a little bit more about it and just how important the connection in sauna culture is as well, because you're there quite often with strangers, you've not got
Hmm.
your phone, hopefully,
Yes.
with you.
You're frying your phone in the sauna. Yeah,
Exactly.
you leave everything behind, don't you? You go in a towel or, robe or whatever, or nothing, some people. I'm not, and I can't do that, but I think, you leave things behind and that, and you're focused, most of the time when you first go into the sauna, you're focused on, oh my goodness, it's so hot, right? To begin with, I'm not a hot weather person, so for me, it's just, okay, just relax. It'll be okay in a minute.
Yeah, and I guess it forces you to slow down and slow your breathing, and so
Slow
you
your
can
breathing.
stay within that heat in the
Yeah.
moment. So
But then after a while you realize actually I'm really relaxing in here. I'm really, I'm letting the day go, I'm letting the month go, I'm letting the year go.
oh,
And and if you can practice that just being in the moment, that's very helpful every single day. Just being in that moment, not worrying about
absolutely.
tomorrow's moment or next week's moment. Sure, your diary's there and you write it down in your diary but having the presence to be right where you are, I think is really that's part of the sauna culture. And I think it's very helpful.
Yes, indeed. You're preaching to the converted here. That's what I'm all about. And I just wonder about how guest expectations are maybe changing. Are they expecting more wellness culture or different things? How's that changed over the past few years?
I think, yes, I think there is more expectation of not just wellness, although we've kind of focused on the wellness route, of experiences. Life is so fast these days. I think our lives the pace has picked up, and maybe that's the pandemic. We can touch on that in a minute, but I think life feels fast, and I think people are looking for memories, for um, you know, having an experience where they can go back and share, or an experience they share with another person that they're traveling with. Maybe that comes from social media, posting things on social media. If I'm a bit cynical, we're looking for the next photo op. Um, but I think it's also because we are in a period of time when we have so much, right? We have many of us have so much that we don't need anymore. So what is it that we can give ourselves? We can give ourselves memories. We can give ourselves experiences. We can give ourselves time, you know, the time to be, the time to enjoy, the time to relax. That's really a gift to give yourself.
Yes, indeed. And I love that you've put on your LinkedIn bio, it's something like making happy memories, which
Yeah.
I just love. And I guess
Yeah,
that's
I
what
truly
you're,
believe that. That's what we're there to do. You
yeah,
know, that you're in hospitality, you constantly have to remember that, you know, we look after our teams. We try to look after the people who are providing that experience because they're the basis for making those happy memories. If your teams aren't happy in what they're doing or they're overly stressed, they can't stop and help a guest, you know, figure out what to do today on Isle of Skye or solve a problem for a guest or, you know, call a taxi or, you know, those sorts of things. Those all make the experience better in small ways. And that's what service is, isn't it?
yes, definitely. And I wonder, just with that whole sort of culture of more, which people are becoming more and more aware of, that
Mm,
we don't need all this stuff and we've been fed a culture of consumerism and so on, and experiences, memories, and having time and less stress so we can enjoy our lives more is more and more important. I wonder what, because success is such a loaded concept, I wonder what success means to you personally.
um, oh, that's a good question. That's a very good question. I don't have financial targets in life. Um, it just doesn't, it's not the same driver for me. I think success is about providing, I think providing connection. I think whether that's connections for our guests or connections for our teams, um, I really do feel that it, for me, success is in the whole of the business, whether it's guest or whether it's our team here in Edinburgh, or whether it's you know, the teams in the hotels, that if we can make a happy atmosphere, we make lives better, right? If we can make people, maybe it's helping somebody when they're having a difficult time in life, or maybe it's um, you know, helping somebody progress and get to the next level in their career, or maybe it's, you know, giving somebody a special opportunity at a hotel to experience something that food or uh, a, a peaceful environment or, you know, it is really about making things better. That's success for me. Making life better, making people's lives better.
Just going to note that down for myself because I love that. Making people's lives better. I think that's just beautiful and encapsulates everything that you've sort of been talking about. And it's those little moments day to day that when you're open to them and flexible and aware, having the presence enough to be aware of them, I think it's the ripple effect that that has as well. So the amount of people that you've touched in your whole life, and
Mm.
just think where they've gone on to and how they've been able to affect other people's lives. So yeah, I love that. It's yeah, that's the best description I've heard yet. And I love the fact that you don't sort of plan too far ahead and
Yeah, I
obviously
mean,
you'll do all the business stuff, but yeah, I
yeah,
agree.
you
Life,
do.
you
You do
don't
your
know.
budgeting. You do your,
Yeah.
you know, you've got your numbers weekly. Whatever it is, you do.
Mm.
But, you know, I think the pandemic taught us a real lesson in that, didn't it?
Mm.
For all of our wonderful plans, here was something that stopped us in our tracks. And particularly in hospitality, when everything stopped. The most important thing was for me, for us, was, are the people okay? You know, um, are the, you know, making sure that everybody knew they weren't going to lose their job, making sure that we had ourselves in a financial position where we would come out of it strong, and making sure that, um, for instance, there were people who fell between the cracks. If you had left one job but you hadn't joined another job, you couldn't get, the support, the government support. So we took a decision that we should continue to support these people just like everyone else. Yes, it was a cost to the business, but it was a handful of people whose lives would have been devastated if they hadn't been supported. And I think that matters for, um, those individuals. And maybe they don't end up staying with Pearl Hotels for very long, or maybe they do. I couldn't even tell you the names or where they are or what they're doing. I just hope that it made their lives a little bit better. And so that
Mm.
that ethos is, I think, quite deep for me.
Yes. And I wonder, did you make any other sort of conscious changes to your business since the pandemic or as a result of the pandemic?
Um, Before the pandemic, I think we were growing faster, that we were more aggressive on growth, and I think now we are steady on growth, with the idea that we build very financially strong as we go. So
Mm.
there's, should something happen, should something go wrong, you've got the capability to cope with it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the same for my business as well, just focusing on stabilizing the foundation so it's really solid so you can grow in a way that's appropriate to you and
Yeah.
to each individual business.
Yeah.
And what exciting things have you got coming up in the future or
Oh,
for the next year?
I'm at the STA conference on Thursday, which is the Scottish Tourism Authority, Alliance's conference in Glasgow. Um, and then I'm planning some trips, I think. I'm just trying to decide my own travel. I love to travel. I'm a I just feel travel opens the mind even more. The more you see different cultures, you see different places. One of my bucket list places is Bhutan. I would really love to go to Bhutan. That was supposed to be on the cards this year, but I've had to delay that. But I think, yeah, just a bit of travel, bit of, yeah, seeing my family. I think that's the key things.
And what about for Pearl? What does the future have in store if you had a
Well,
magic wand?
if I had a magic wand, we would open the hotel tomorrow in
Yeah.
Edinburgh. We are in the development of the new hotel in Edinburgh. It's been a little bit delayed, through the planning process, but we hope to be opening in spring of 2026. And, yeah, we're focused on that. We're focused on getting, like I said, the structure right in the business, and hopefully making sure that everyone has an enjoyable time at work, even though it can be, you know, stressful, but making sure that they still enjoy what they're doing.
Wow. Well, I could talk to you for hours, but yeah, I guess we have to think about drawing this to a
I
close,
would
but
bore you after a while.
not at all. I feel like I've learned so much in the time that we've been talking. Yeah, could go on and on. I just wonder if there's anything in particular that you wish I'd asked that we haven't spoken about or covered so far.
Um, Not that I can think of. I think, oh, I wanted to ask you a question if that's okay.
Fire
No, I'm gonna
away.
put you on the spot. What is the strangest well-being practice you've tried?
Oh, something comes to mind. from a time. It just popped. I had this image. I've not thought about this for a long time. I was on a tea sourcing trip to Sri Lanka many years ago, and it was not long after the tsunami, and there was still a lot of civil war and stuff going on. So there was hardly any tourists, and I
Mm.
was right down the south, Unawatuna or something like near the beach, I think it was. And I went to a kind of spa, and I was the only person there, the only guest, and certainly the only person from outside Sri Lanka. But it was amazing. But there was like a number of people. I think they were doing massages and stuff as well, but they ran me this lovely bath, like in the open air with like rose petals and things. And then I had somebody like rubbing stuff into my arms here and somebody else rubbing my arms there. And I was like, this is bizarre, but amazing. And I'm just going to enjoy it and go with it. But yeah, that was a real lesson in just how kind people are and opening
Mm.
up and being sort of open and trusting people and being
Mm.
alive to different possibilities. And yeah, I met so many kind and wonderful people, and I was younger than I am now. So yeah, I was a little bit on edge, and I was conscious about safety, safety, safety the whole time.
Mm.
But actually,
Mm.
that whole trip just taught me to obviously be aware of safety, but to trust as well and to open
Mm.
and be flexible. And yeah, the power of travel and adventure
Yeah,
really opens your minds, and I think helps to spark your creativity and your ideas. And yeah,
definitely.
making happy memories. So
Definitely. See, it's the memories that matter.
exactly, it is the memories that matter. And then slowing down enough to remember the memories as well. I think that's
Mm.
important, and to
Yeah.
remember the lessons. So
Mm. You just
there's
reminded me of we were at the Dead Sea and I wanted to have a, mud pack, because the Dead Sea mud's so healthy. And this lady put mud head to toe and then wrapped me in a giant sheet of plastic. And I was wrapped in plastic for, I don't know, a good half an hour, 45 minutes. I just I just kept thinking I'm just wrapped in a giant sheet of plastic.
yeah, anything could have happened there.
But it's a bit like that, Charleston, and
Mm.
let's just go with this. Let's see where it takes us. Felt fantastic afterwards.
Yeah, I bet it did.
How are you
Um,
getting sunshine? We're both in Edinburgh, but you're getting sunshine and I'm not.
I know, and honestly, I'm in Dunbar, and they call it Sunny Dunny. Apparently, it's the sunniest place in Scotland, and it really is. Like, I need to get more sunglasses. It's so sunny. So,
Oh, and
not complaining. But,
I'm in the center of Edinburgh and it's very grey.
well, I'm about to head to our tea space in Leith, and yeah, hopefully, probably not be sunny. It's like a
Yeah,
little
probably
microclimate here. It's lovely.
fantastic.
So,
Now I know where to go if I need sun.
oh, indeed. Spoilt for choice, loads of beaches. It's beautiful. So I'd just like to leave our listeners today with a little tea routine that they could do. So a little sort of micro moment of well-being, and there's a lot that you've shared throughout this. But is there, if people were to take 3 minutes after this conversation to just be with themselves and a cup of tea, what would you recommend that they do with those few minutes?
Doodle.
Doodle.
Everybody can doodle. Take a pen and a piece of paper, any kind of paper, it doesn't have to be a journal, you don't have to have anything special, but take a pen and let your mind wander and doodle. Doodle, maybe it's words, maybe it's patterns, maybe it's just squiggles, but let your mind go. Mm.
Lovely. Well, I am going to re-steep my jasmine pearls because they are amazing. And Doodle, thank you so much.
Excellent.
Thank you so much for coming
Thank you,
on. It's been a
Erica.
pleasure, and I would, yeah, love to talk to you more. Maybe after the hotel is launched next year, we can have you back
Yes,
on.
have you back on and in the hotel. We can do one in the
Oh,
hotel.
that would be lovely.
And thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed this.
Thank
Thank you.
you. It's been a pleasure. That's it for today. I hope something landed. I hope something lifted. And if it did, share it with someone who needs a pause too. If you enjoyed this, you'll love the Tea Mind Substack, where the kettle's always on and we can connect more deeply. Until next time, stay present, sip slowly, and thanks for listening.